Okay, we have a dilemma. I'm not quite for sure what to do, but I think I've got it mapped out in my head. So, when I pulled the timing cover off, my inexperience with these engines, I failed to lower the oil pan at a good enough distance to where I could take the timing cover out without damaging the oil pan gasket. So, what ended up happening was the part of the gasket that dips down and fills the gap between the pan and the timing cover, which is something like this. I don't know if you can really see that or not. Broke, I guess is the best way to put it. Not that it was in the best of shape anyway. It looks like it was pretty ratty, and there really wasn't that much hanging on. So I kind of wonder if it had been replaced before. So I don't know. So what I think I have decided to do, which kind of takes away from my original plans, but I think what I'm going to do is I've got the car on some ramps, so I'm able to get underneath the car and have a little more room to work. So I think the immediate plan is to drop the oil out of the pan and then to hit all of the bolts that hold the factory catted Y pipe in place with some PB Blaster and let them soak to get the Y pipe off the car and out of the way. Get the starter out of the way. Replace the starter while it's off. Then I was thinking about maybe once the Y pipe's off, undoing the motor mounts and kind of lifting the engine up a couple of inches and putting some blocks between the motor mount plates and the actual mount on the car and holding it up out of the way so I can drop the oil pan and replace the gasket like that. But since I'm that far into it, I think the goal would be to go ahead and replace the exhaust manifolds with the long tube headers I got as well. So, I mean, that's going to add to the time that the car's down and I'm still not able to do anything with it. That should make for some great content. Watching me struggle with some stuff I shouldn't have broken in the first place. But we'll go ahead and drain the oil and start hitting all the, you can see that, yeah, there's a cat. Start hitting the Y pipe bolts with PB Blaster. Let them soak for a couple of days. Come back at this and maybe at least get the Y pipe out of the way. And then see what else we can do. I had plans to enjoy this car for what it was and to slowly replace these things. But now it's become painfully obvious to me that some of the things that I wanted to slowly replace, I'm not going to be able to do so slowly. And I just put this oil in here. That's alright, because I'm sure it got a lot of the crud that was in here out. And hopefully cleaned up things a little bit. I'm sure it had been years since the last time it had an oil change. The only benefit that I can think of, other than hopefully doing it right and not having it leak, would be be able to check the oil pump out while I'm in here, maybe replace it. That's not how you say it. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, here. Come around to the passenger side. Or not to, you know, that's cool, whatever.
Molly, come on.
We'll give this a day or two, come back, see where we stand. Till then, we're back where we left off. We have a oil pan gasket that we're needing to replace. So I think we're going to start out by taking off the starter, the dust shield around the transmission. Let's see where we stand after that. I thought about undoing the motor mounts and jacking the engine up a little bit to gain an extra inch or two of clearance, but I don't know. I want to try to keep this as minimal as possible. We may have to go ahead and remove the Y pipe, which if we're going to put our headers on here, we're going to have to remove it anyway. Don't know what you can see, but this engine is a nasty mess. I've seen worse, but I've seen much cleaner too. So what we're going to do is remove this dust shield. It's got, looks like 4 bolts that hold it on, and once that's out of the way, it should make life a little easier to get to the back of the bolts on the oil pan. So, sweet, pretty nasty. A lot of buildup. But with the miles we have, I guess that's to be expected. So, remain sealed. Nah, doesn't look that bad, really. I guess what I would like to do next, the Y pipe off of here, maybe. I was thinking about taking the starter out next, but so after a couple of weeks layoff of not being able to do anything due to weather and temperature, we're back. So where we left off at was Hopefully that's visible. Okay. See, I was purely guessing on whether or not I had the correct size. So let's find out. We shall see. First one's right. And it was a 14. All right. And I'm either going to need a deep dish, most likely, because I think the extension's still put me too far out from where I need to be. That wire seems to have, starters out. That is going to clear up a lot of space for us. I don't know if you can see that, but I do have a light. Yeah, there you go. That bolt right there that you see sticking out with the nut on it is the motor mount plate bolts. How they connect the two of them together. So that one needs to come. If I can get the nut off on both sides, then maybe slide a floor jack under here and put just a little bit of pressure on the engine, and maybe the bolts will knock themselves free. One. And you can barely see that one there, cover it with garbage. I thought that one was a little easier to get to on my Camaro, but I also didn't have any front accessories on it, so that probably helped. The back of the LT1, it may be this way on every small block Chevy, I don't know, but on the back there are studs right there, and they of course require nuts. So all the other ones are bolts, as you can see. So I lost one of the nuts, and of course I had to go buy it. So, and there is the other stud in the back there, and it's kind of hard to see, but we've got everything else in position that we need to have. So brace just hangs off here. You see it right here? Little bracket screwed onto something. Probably AC compressor. Hell, I don't know. May not even need it, but I was looking through my little baggie of parts on my Camaro, and I was putting everything back together, and I came across that, and I was like, well, where the heck does that go? So at least I know it's consistent. Okay. It looks like that the negative battery cable. Yeah. The battery cable goes down there and mounts on that motor mount plate. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, right here. Not hard to see, but you know, this is another reason why I bought this car, to be honest with you. Or how I justified it to my wife. I kept telling her, I'm going to need to know where all this stuff goes on my Camaro, and I'm not going to be able to remember it. I mean, I tagged and bagged and wrote out a lot of notes to myself, but still, there's most of this stuff I can't remember where it went. But I'm able to use this card and say, yeah, okay, that went there. That makes sense. I'd have probably had to struggle and post on the internet a lot to. It's pretty tight. Figure it out otherwise. So it's a win-win. So, I think the oil pan gasket is done. We have a new timing chain, new timing cover gasket, of course, and all the seals for the timing cover. We've replaced the oil pan gasket. We have replaced the low oil level sensor in the oil pan. Actually, I haven't done that yet, but we're getting ready to because I got it in there. And then we got a magnetic drain plug. But other than that, all the bolts are tight. I think they're as tight as I can get them without breaking them. That's something that I used to be really good at. So, I think before we try to drop this engine back in its home, I'm going to get that low oil level sensor. I may be calling it the wrong thing, but I think that's what it's, oil level sensor. This screws into the side of the pan. This one's just broken. Put that new one in, put the new drain plug in, and then I think we'll try to get a floor jack out here. Jack the engine back up a little bit, pull these pieces of 2x4 out of the way real quick. Drop this sucker back down. It's home. And one thing I forgot to do, I wanted to get a thing of PB Blaster and spray on that steering shaft so we can slide that steering shaft out of the way. It just makes it easier for that long tube header to drop down there on the driver's side. So, I guess there's no point in talking about it. Let's just go do it. Sensor right here, hopefully you can see. Screws into the side of the block, or the side of the oil pan rather. And it's like a 1 1/8 inch socket, but it's just as easy to use a crescent wrench to get it out than it is to try to go hunting down another socket. Now, hopefully it all comes out in one piece. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a pretty far cry from the one that's going in its place. Doesn't really look anything like that, does it? But when I took the oil pan off originally, the rest of this was in there, and it was all in like one or two big pieces. So I guess this is pretty common for this to happen as they get older. This little seal board off of here, because our new sensor ain't gonna go in there with it on. Kind of like one of them little washers with hopefully we won't have no leaks. Just turn till they stop, and then just barely more on. There you go. So hopefully that won't have any leaks. I don't think it will. So we have our new oil level sensor, low oil level sensor. Hopefully that's what you call it. I don't know. Yeah. And then we have a drain plug, which we need to replace next. I've got a magnetic one to hopefully pull any metal that ends up in this oil pan out and keep it out of the filter and out of the pump. Won't get it all, but every little bit helps, right? The engine's setting back in there pretty much where it's supposed to be at this point. We've replaced our timing chain, timing covered gasket, all the seals, oil pan gasket, oil pump pickup tube, and a one-piece hardened shaft, a low oil sensor, and we got a magnetic drain plug. So all of that because I didn't lower the oil pan to start out with. So do your research, guys, before you start on something, and save yourself some work, even though it was probably needed. We have our bolts back in their holes, or in their homes, however you want to look at it. We just got to put the nuts on the back of the bolts. One of the things I had done, I didn't realize that I had done, was, if you look, you can really see it, but where the motor mount plate bolts to the engine, there is a bolt that is, you can barely see it there. It kind of hangs down a little bit in the way of that motor mount bolt, the long one that holds the two upper and lower plates together. And I took it out before I took the long bolt out anyway, so I put the bolt back in, and then I realized I didn't have it in there, so I'd take the bolt back out, put it back in. Kind of minuscule problem to have, but it's just a lot of what I have problems. So anyway, what we're doing now is, right, can you see there, there's not a lot of room to get the camera up in here, so you're going to have to look at it at an angle. So here's the nut on the back side of the bolt, and the other side is pretty much the same thing. So what I think I'm gonna do is put a wrench on the back and kind of wedge it in place and hit it in the front with an impact. Well, that should be good if I hit it from the front with an impact. No, I think I see why it was originally. This bolt was, I think, pushed in from the back and had the nut on the front. Totally makes sense now why they would do that. What a pain. Well, I really don't want to undo it again. So let's just see if we can find a way to make this work. Let's see, we are almost tight, kind of tight, getting close to being tight. Hell, I don't know. The other one should be easier. Yeah, I think it's good. Gonna need another shower. What? Okay, the goal now, since the engine is back in its home, the bolts are back in, the oil pan's back on, sensor's back in. We're going to move up a little bit. We're going to crawl back into this engine compartment, get that steering shaft out, pull all those spark plugs, get the wires out of the way, and see if we can drop a long tube in from the top. No, it'll be a long shot, but we'll see what happens. So, on my Camaro, I went in from the bottom, but the Camaro was sitting on ramps that had jacks built in, and I had like 10 to 12 extra inches of clearance. And when I had to put this in from the bottom, I had to kind of tilt it like this. And without that extra room down there, it's not possible. So we either go in from the top, or we're going to have to switch ramps, or get this thing up on jack stands even higher than it already is. So let's see if we can get in from the top. A little sensor there is going to take a whacking. Let's see if we're ready. That's going to be a pain in the ass to take in and out to beat this stupid thing in. So, well, this one, I guess every one is a little bit different. This one is way more room here, but it still needs to be, if you grab me a Sharpie real quick, like a black Sharpie out of the drawer in there, I just want to draw on the header. That was super quick there. Where we're going to have to dent this in. So, you look right in here, needs to be dented in. Right in there, I have to be dented in. This thing even good? Yeah. Okay. And then that bottom tube, it looks like, it's a good thing I kept that grinding still. Right there, here. Look at that here. Let's get this sensor out, get this tube back out, and at least I can start clearancing it and beating it in. Well, it got hot. I was just trying to hurry up and get most of this done before summer got here. I guess that opportunity has passed. So anyway, it's very hot. So I guess where we last left off was we're trying to get the long tube header in on the passenger side. We have the driver's side installed. Well, it doesn't have a gasket on it and it's not torqued in place, but that's minuscule. You can see it's in there, and we clearanced the steering shaft. So all we got to do is pop a gasket in there and put the rest of the bolts in and torque it down. Now, off camera, mainly because my battery died, we did some test fitting on the passenger side. We tried to slide that header down from the top, kind of like I did on my Camaro, but man, we were just not successful. It gets about 3 or 4 inches from where it needs to be and just kind of stops right above the outside rim of the head. So, as much as I hate to do this, I think the next step is going to be to undo the motor mount on this side and kind of raise the engine up just a little bit on the side to gain that extra little bit of clearance that we're going to need to kind of drop it down. So, seems like all that work I did putting it back together was for nothing, because now I got to undo it. Damn, it's hot out here already. So, I guess I will gather some tools and we will find a place to where you can see what's going on, and we'll get started at it all over again, because we got to take that bolt out on this side. I guess it's a good thing I hadn't put the AC compressor back. Alright, here we are back again. Somewhere I thought I wouldn't have to come back to. You know, the sad part about this is I just did this. I guess I got a little bit too much of a rush. Yeah, too much of a rush. Didn't slow down enough. And then we get to do it all over again. Let's go from the front and try to back the bolt out as far as we can by hand, and then we'll just knock it out with like we got to get a floor jack under here first, but we can knock it out with a pin and pull it back the other way. Put a jack underneath and on the side to prevent it from sagging and get the weight off the bolt. Trying to back that bolt out by hand as far as we can before we put a floor jack under here. So, we have now gotten the bolt back out. As you can see, it's pretty flat and even on the back side. Don't know if you can see it or not. But the whole goal here is to pull this bolt and kind of use the other side as a hinge and try to gain at least an inch of clearance or so. Or maybe it make it a little easier to drop a header in from the top. I still got to clean the side of the head before we get that far, but if we can get it in there while it's raised up, I don't know how far I can raise it up with the other side still bolted in, but we'll figure it out. Yeah. So, what was I thinking? Let's see. Take all my spare time. I could be relaxing, but no. I thought it'd be a great idea to get me yet another project car. Anyway, the bolt's almost out. Again. this was a pain on my Camaro when I did it, but I had a whole lot more room. I didn't have the accessories bracket in here yet. I do here, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt. Hard to kind of see, but what we're doing is getting down in here and trying to grind off the edge of this motor mount plate. It's right here. It's about half an inch higher than it needs to be. That'll give us a little bit of added clearance, but it won't get us all the room we're gonna need. It'll get us some, but the other part of it is gonna have to come from denting in those header tubes. And I got probably another 1/8 of an inch to go. Yeah, I gotta kind of round it and make it flat on the sides too. I'm not having fun, just so you know. Yeah, it's a bright one out here today. Okay, so good thing you can't see any of this. Where I believe we're going to have the problem is right in here. This is where it comes in contact with that motor mount plate. Now, once again, when I did my Camaro, I kind of had to keep grinding because I was lucky enough to get the header down in place, but I couldn't get it back out because the sorry, it's hot. The oil dipstick wasn't coming back out after it went in. Because the engine in my Camaro has a 4-bolt main and it's splayed. But the problem that I never found a decent solution to is when you have a 4-bolt splayed LT1, the dipstick is up against the main cap, and you really can't put a pan on it. You really can't do anything, so you got to kind of dimple the tube. Now, we've done 3 things so far. Removed the heat shield, dimpled the header where it looks like crap, and ground down the motor mount plate. Between those 3 things, will it be enough to get this in place? I doubt it. I doubt it, very seriously. But, you know, the first time I've been wrong. Area right there is causing the header to point more in this direction than it needs to. If I had a little more clearance here, I should be able to push the header up on the side of the engine. I've rubbed the body down there where I did not rub the body on my Camaro. So I'm wondering if I put the header back down in a hole and I lower the engine back down to where it's supposed to be, will that get me off of the inside of the body and make me straight? If so, then we're good. If not, I'm going to stop, ask around, see what type of problems other people have had, and maybe reconsider these long tube headers on this car. That'd be a buzzkill, a lot of work for nothing, but I'm not into beating the crap out of the body just to make these things work. Maybe look for a cheap set of shorties. So, I don't know. So, getting this motor mount plate right here, and I see a spot way down in there where it's going to rub the K member or cross member, whatever you want to call it, on an F body. And then I'll have to jack the engine back up to get the header out. And it has some more grinding, have some more denting, some more beating, however you want to look at it, to do. So unfortunately, that green that she gave me didn't really stick to the header very well, so I can only see 2 of the 3 areas where it was rubbing. This is one of them. I will dent this one in. Well, there's one. Now, unfortunately, I don't know where the heck the other one was. Guess it's going to have to go back under there and on. I'm going to heat this horrible looking tube up. Hopefully, I don't crack it. Anyway, instead of beating the living crap out of that header, I think we'll switch gears here and grind some down on that plate. Gonna try to do this all over again. Hopefully this, well, I guess the valve cover will come off first.